do on phase two. I'm sure you got. I mean, the camaraderie and the chemistry between the actors, it's stuck around. I mean, you can see that you guys have got a natural chemistry.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And in fact, that's one of the main things I talk to people about when they come on to phase two is, as I say, you're going to take and end up spending a lot of your own money, for lodging and food and that kind of stuff to be here for a week or two to enjoy the aspects of making a movie. But what the thing is
right.
that you really need to extract out of this is the friendships and the connections that you make. All right, and you can benefit and profit immensely from those connections that you make, all right? Be it the fact that you make a friend for the rest of your life, and I have many of those that have come directly from working on phase two, or friends that turn into doing something different, right? You get together with a bunch of talented people, and those people may very well want to do something that's not Star Trek, but have talents to do something, and that's kind of like something that originated from phase two that I'm also doing through a company called Dragon Phoenix Media. And
yeah.
I met a couple of guys, one Bill Lutz and Glenn Smith. They both really, really into comic books. And one day talking to them on the sets, and I said, I also had an idea for a comic book, a story that I wanted to do, or a graphic novel or something. I never really developed it. And they said, well, tell us about it. And I said, well, it's this idea about Mars and Earth, and they're fighting. It's 200 years in the future, and they, find some alien technology, and that alien technology just, kind of explodes the whole war to now they're fighting for this kind of stuff. And so, well, that's a pretty interesting idea. Why don't you flesh it out and send it over to us? So I did, and I sent it over, and they loved it and said, you know what, let's do this, right? Let's take and have you come on board and do this comic book, and we're going to have one of the artists, Bill Lutz is an artist, but we also have another artist, Rob Barnes, who lives in New Zealand, and, we'll start talking concept art, that kind of stuff. So over the last year, the company's grown, and we have, 5 comic book lines that are coming out, including mine, Mars versus Earth. But we've got one called The Realm, which is, kind of like a sword sorcery type of show, comic book, and we have Pathways and Frontiersman, which is your superhero comic books, really, really cool. And in fact, Bill Lutz likes to take real world models and turn them into characters, and I'm getting to be a comic book character as well as writing a comic book. So whenever you see World Smasher and Pathways, that's yours truly. We also have another one called I, Human that Glenn Smith is writing, and that's a comic book that's set in the future with robots, and it's very, very cool. It's got a kind of a AI type of feel to it. It's very, very, very interesting. So we're really excited about that. All these first issues, we're hoping they'll be out in June for everybody to download and get, and that's you can check it out at dragonphoenixmedia.com. But that's one of the things that kind of came from this, right? If you're going to, you get together with a bunch of people, it's like, hey, let's do something different. And you do something different, and you prosper from it. I mean, how can you not look back on something like phase two and go, if that's the only thing I get out of this, it's a massive win. All right?
Absolutely.
If you are like, wow, you know what, I didn't take any other advantage other than getting a friend, what can you say? That in life, how often you get new friends, right?
Right, absolutely. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to, before I go any further, let's give out the number one more time here. Still waiting for some calls to come in. If you want to talk to Charles Root, call-in phone number is 347-989-8810, 347-989-8810. You can call in and ask Phase 2 Scotty anything you pretty much want, within reason, of course.
Yeah. Boxes are free.
Don't ask him to loan you any money.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I have none to give to anybody. So, yeah.
If anything, he will be accepting donations, and I had to laugh. I was watching the your one YouTube video you did asking for donations, asking for cash, and you couldn't have said it any better than that.
Right. right. Yeah.
No, yeah, cash. I love that. Okay, moving on. Let's get into another subject. Every time I'm on Facebook and I kind of flip through the thing, I always see you got a picture of you in a bottle of beer or a nice glass of beer. Obviously, you have an affinity for craft beers, and it's an affinity of my own. I love craft beers. For me, I'll tell you about me real quick.
Yeah.
I used to be strictly a Budweiser, Bud Light guy, okay?
Yeah.
Then about 3 years ago, I moved down to Alabama, and my cousin-in-law, big into craft beers, he goes, "Don't drink that garbage. Drink this."
Right.
He gave me a beer down there called Sweetwater IPA, 420 IPA. Nice name for it. Yeah, I drank it. I'm like, this stuff's great, you know. And
wow.
I went to and then I went to then I went to a thing called the Rocket City Brew Fest, and I mean, there's all these little, you get your little sample shot glass and everything. And well, here's the best part of my story. I didn't have to pay to get in. He works as a distributor. So I got in. He gave me the brewer's pass. I'm like, oh, great. I'm going to be in trouble. My wife's going to kill me. I went through and I started just drinking. I mean, I'm testing about every type of beer. And next thing you know, I'm in love with the stuff. Okay,
right.
You're the guest. Tell us about how you got into the craft beer thing and what you like to do.
Absolutely, sure. Well, first I didn't even start drinking alcohol until I was like 23. All right, I didn't touch the stuff, wasn't interested in it, and then I was going through a rough patch in my young life. Right, when you look back on things, it's like, yeah, that was that. If only my biggest problems could have been that. But anyway, so my buddy's like, come on out tonight, come on, have a drink, and I'm like, all right, finally, I'll take a drink, whatever, right? So it was a vodka Collins. At the time, it wasn't even beer. And I was like, wow, this is pretty good, right? So I started moving into, all right, well, maybe I'll try a beer. And this was at the same time I was in college, and there was a place in Vermont called the Last Chance Saloon, and every Friday and Saturday night, an Irish band used to play there called Bootless and Unhorsed, and they played Irish and it was rowdy as hell. And in fact, their music's on Amazon. If you ever just look up Bootless and Unhorsed on Amazon, you can download their music. It's rowdy, vulgar Irish pub songs. And so you're down there, and they're just slinging booze all night long. And my friends are just like, hey, you try this beer, right? And in Vermont, we have been blessed with a plethora of micro craft breweries. It's kind of one of the places where craft brewing kind of got its start here on the East Coast.
Right.
Yeah. And with like Magic Hat, was like one of the big ones. Of course, they're now a huge brewer, but they started off very small, kind of a local thing. And they made a brew called Magic Hat Number 9, which is beer made with apricots. And that's kind of what got me hooked into it. I never started off on like Budweiser's or anything like that. I mean, I have a default brew that I'll go to where I'll go, this is the minimum I will drink, and that's Labatt's Blue. All right, but no, you won't find it in my refrigerator by any stretch of imagination. What you'll find in there are microbrews from around Vermont generally, kind of like your trout rivers, your harpoons, your Lawson's liquids, that kind of stuff. Fiddlehead. We have tons of phenomenal brews that way. But I'm not a beer snob either, all right? There's a couple of, of the big boys, and I know this is Anheuser-Busch and Coors, but I'll tell you, Shock Top and Blue Moon both put out some, seasonal brews that are certainly, like B+, A- in my book when I look at these, and even if you look at on Beer Advocate, you take a look at these, and they get some pretty decent scores, right? So I think in general, even the big boys are looking at, hey, we can't continue. I mean, there's always going to be people who want PBR, and that's fine. Go ahead. If that's what makes you happy, put that to your list. All right? But they're looking at, where the money is people want quality brew, okay, that has some sort of flavor into it that doesn't taste like carbonated water.
Exactly. And I'm, that's like with me. Like I said, with myself, I used to drink a lot of the Bud Light. And, that's all I drank. And, now I go to try, like the other day, I was a couple of weeks ago, I was at my buddy's house, and all he drinks is Bud Light. And I drank all my, I went and got some Stone IPA, okay, and I drank 6 of those, and I was feeling, I was about 3 sheets.